SpaceX. I mean, when you hear that name, you pretty much think of the future, right? It's the company that's completely changing the game in space travel, not to mention satellite internet. And it just so happens to be one of the most valuable, most sought-after private companies on the entire planet. For years, pretty much everyone has been asking the same question. How can I get a piece of that? Well, today, we are going to break it down. Let's get into it. Okay, let's just start with a number that is kind of hard to wrap your head around. $1.25 trillion. That is the insane combined valuation of SpaceX and its new AI startup, xAI. And to put that into perspective for you, that is more than the entire economy of most countries. It's a number that puts SpaceX into this tiny super exclusive club of corporate giants. So with a valuation like that, you'd think you could just pop open your brokerage app, type in a ticker symbol, and buy a few shares, right? Well, not exactly. Despite all the hype, all the demand, SpaceX is completely off limits to the average person. But why? That is the big puzzle we are here to solve.
The whole answer really just comes down to a huge difference between SpaceX and almost every other big company you can think of. It all boils down to one simple fact. And here it is, SpaceX is a private company. What does that mean? Well, unlike public companies, think Apple, Amazon, Google, its shares are not traded on a stock market. Instead, ownership is held really tightly by a small group of insiders, employees, a few early investors, and of course, Elon Musk. There is no ticker symbol to look up, no daily stock chart to watch, and no buy button for most of us.
Yeah, and there's basically a bouncer at the door of this exclusive club. To get past the velvet rope and invest directly, you usually have to be what's known as an accredited investor. And to put it simply, that means you're already wealthy. We're talking a net worth over $1 million or a really high, steady income. So for the vast majority of people, that door is shut and locked.
So you might be wondering why all the secrecy? Well, for the longest time, Elon Musk has been super clear about his reasoning. He's talked a lot about the crazy pressure he's felt from Wall Street managing Tesla, and he really wants to shield SpaceX from all of that. By staying private, the company can stay laser-focused on its massive long-term goals, like colonizing Mars, without getting sidetracked by Wall Street's short-term demands. But that doesn't mean there aren't any ways.
So, okay, the front door to investing in SpaceX might be locked, but that doesn't mean there aren't a few side doors or secret passages. And in this next part, we're going to show you exactly where to find them.
All right, so one of the most direct ways for regular folks to get exposure is through a special kind of fund. Take the Private Shares Fund, for example. It trades under the ticker PRIVX, and as you can see, a huge piece of this fund, we're talking over 18%, is invested directly in that SpaceX and xAI combo. This is a total game changer because it lets you get a slice of that private company pie without needing to be an accredited investor. And this chart here really just lays it all out. To go direct, you need that accreditation and, a spare 100,000 plus, maybe even $1 million. With a fund like PRIVX, the barrier to entry is way, way lower. No accreditation, and the minimum investment is around $2,500. Plus, you get diversification built in, so you're not putting all of your eggs into one very, very expensive rocket.
But PRIVX isn't the only game in town. There are other funds out there, like the ARK Venture Fund or Destiny Tech 100, which also hold a pretty big chunk of SpaceX. You can also go broader and invest in the entire space industry through ETFs like ARKX or UFO. And, for people who like to think a little differently, some folks even see buying Tesla stock as an indirect bet on SpaceX, just because of Elon Musk's leadership across both. But all of these indirect methods, these workarounds, they might become a thing of the past pretty soon, because there are whispers on Wall Street, and those whispers are getting louder and louder about the one event that could finally open the floodgates, the long, long-awaited SpaceX IPO. And these rumors are getting really specific. The date that keeps popping up is June 28, 2026, and, not so coincidentally, that's Elon Musk's birthday. The valuation they're talking about? A mind-blowing $1.5 trillion. And to really get how huge that number is, you just have to look at this journey. I mean, from a valuation of just over $100 million back in 2002 to a projection of $1.5 trillion at its IPO. That's not just growth. That's a straight-up meteoric rise. It's completely rewritten the rules of what's possible.
And because this is Elon Musk we're talking about, the rumored ticker symbol for the public company is SEX. He loves a good meme. So honestly, don't be shocked if this actually happens. It would definitely make for some interesting conversations on financial news channels, that's for sure.
So after all these years of staying private, why the change of heart? Why now? Well, it really seems to come down to three big things. First, Starship. That's the key to the Mars plan, and it needs a gigantic amount of money to build. Second, their Starlink internet service. It's become a cash cow, a really reliable moneymaker that gives the company a solid financial foundation. And third, they're looking to jump into the AI race in a big way, by putting data centers in orbit. Think about that. That could completely change cloud computing.
Okay, before we all get carried away and plan our retirement on SpaceX stock, it is time for a serious reality check. Because investing in the final frontier, it comes with some very real, very down-to-earth risks we need to talk about.
Let's just weigh the good against the bad. On the plus side, the potential for growth here is just, well, astronomical. You're not just buying a stock, you're investing in the future of humanity itself. But the risks are just as massive. The valuation is already unbelievably high, which makes you wonder how much higher it can really go. The stock will probably be incredibly volatile, and a single setback, like a failed launch or a new regulation, could send it tumbling. And don't forget, it's a new space race out there. Companies like Blue Origin aren't just sitting on the sidelines.
So, there you have it. SpaceX is a company that is fundamentally pushing the limits of what we think is possible. It offers a chance to be part of something genuinely historic, but it is also a really high-stakes bet, with absolutely no guarantees. So the final question isn't really about the numbers, it's about how much you believe in the vision. Is the final frontier an investment you're ready to make?